Focusing on the transformative power of emotions, energy, and empowerment, often overlooked yet essential for thriving families, my programs equip both parents and young people to master what they can.
Welcome to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Chris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. What does finding health look like for you? Do you have a vision for your future self and a way to get there? I'm Dr. Chris, and after 33 years in functional medicine and a lifelong journey through brain health, weight loss, hormones, mindset, and faith, I know that real transformation doesn't come from willpower or white-knuckling your way to wellness. It comes from gratitude, honoring your body as the temple that God created. This show is about body stewardship, not shame. It's about rewiring your mindset, your metabolism, and your spirit to find lasting health without the grind. I'll help you cut through the noise, see opportunities instead of obstacles, and finally live the healthy, purposeful life you were created for. Let's spark faith and transformation together. Spark Faith starts now. Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Chris Sargent. Welcome to the Spark Faith Show. I have some fun things. Last week, we dove deep into blood sugar regulation, and it just seemed really obvious to me that we needed to talk about mitochondria. And you're like, what? That is a giant word. And it sounds like I'm going to go to Biology 101. And I am not going to take you there. One of my earlier careers was teaching nursing students anatomy and physiology as I was coming out of chiropractic school and starting my practice. So I have learned how to make physiology fun and put fun in functional medicine. So that's what we're going to do today. So hang in there as we are moving forward in the Living Fresh series, because that's what we're talking about now. I am going to be talking, last week we talked about regulation. This week we are going to talk about energy production. And mitochondria is really the energy system that nobody talks about, right? This is how cellular energy, not motivation, determines whether your body feels strong or exhausted, right? Whether you feel tired or you feel fantastic, right? So this is one of our primary pillars, E for energy. And so maybe you have those days where you wake up and you're just like, oh my goodness, did I even sleep? I can't quite get my brain going, and my legs feel like cement, and my motivation is low, and exercise feels really hard today. And like even simple tasks like making your coffee, because that is clearly what you need when you first wake up in the morning, if you are like me at all. And a lot of times you may just be assuming that you need more discipline, or you're just going to kind of like white knuckle, right? We're going to white knuckle this through, and maybe you just need that extra cup of coffee. But what if none of those are the real issue, right? What if the real issue is energy production inside your cells, right? We're made up of billions and billions of cells. And what if those cells aren't very efficient at making the energy you need to get through your day? So today we're going to talk about something a lot of people don't really know about, but it is kind of popping a lot in the functional medicine world, and that is mitochondria. I spent last year I went to a conference, and that is all we talked about for an entire conference. So when it comes to fatigue and metabolism, mitochondria is like the guy, the girl, right? It is our energy. It is our power plant. It does so much. Excuse me. These tiny little structures inside your cells are responsible for producing the energy that your body runs on. And when you're not feeling well, you kind of feel crappy, right? But when you are feeling well and they're making plenty of energy and they're super efficient, you are going to feel capable. You're going to feel resilient. You're going to feel energized. And you're also going to have that capacity that we talk so much about in Living Fresh, right? So when mitochondrial function slows down, everything in the body feels harder, right? It just feels hard. And you may think it's thyroid, you may think it's your hormones, you may think you just aren't sleeping well, and all those things could be true too, right? Like we're just a melting pot of things that could be happening. Um, and generally in functional medicine, we believe that things are multifactorial, right? This is not just a single thing that is important for us. So, um, honestly, though, I'm going to start out with a little tiny bit of scripture and we're going to bring it back around. And then I am going to dive into the capacity problem of mitochondria. But Isaiah 40 reads like, he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak, right? Like we know that God is there. And we also know that we have to fuel our bodies properly and do those things. And so he's there to help you through that. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles, right? This is one of my favorite scriptures, actually. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and will not faint. So we can grow really weary as human beings, right? That's just part of our reality. And depending on your circumstances and all those things, but renewal of strength spiritually and physically is really built into God's design of the body. So today we're going to talk about exactly how energy is produced inside your body and why strengthening your cellular energy systems can really change the way you feel day in and day out. So just remember that fatigue is not always a capacity problem, right? It is not always fatigue is a capacity problem, not always a motivation problem, right? So, maybe you think that your energy just comes from caffeine. Maybe you think your energy just comes from sleep. Maybe you know that your energy comes from food. But maybe you just think that discipline and pushing harder might be the way to just get through it. And maybe that's what you've done and you don't even realize you're doing that right now. But biologically, energy is not just a feeling, right? It's a biochemical process. And that sounds like big words. And I'm going to introduce some big words today, but you are going to understand them. And I'm going to make sure that you get it right before the end of the episode. So energy is produced inside the body, and it's called a big word at adenosine triphosphate. See, I even have trouble. Adenosine triphosphate, ATP. Okay, so we're just going to talk about ATP as the energy components produced inside our body. It is biochemical, but here's the thing. Your brain requires ATP to think clearly. Your muscles require ATP to contract and be strong. Your heart requires ATP to continuously beat all the time. So without good ATP production, your body just can't perform the work that you're asking it to do. So when someone tells me, I'm exhausted all the time, the physiologist in me hears something a little bit different, right? Yes, there's all these other things that can be part of the problem, but I'm looking for root, right? We look for root problems here. I think, wow, I wonder if their cells are producing energy efficiently, right? So energy doesn't just come from motivation. Energy comes from mitochondria at the end of the day, right? So what do these mitochondria actually do? They are tiny little things inside every single cell, and every single cell can have bunches of them, okay? And certain cells have even more. So we're going to talk about that in a second too. But their primary job is energy production. It's like the power plant, okay? So we're going to talk about power plant for just a second. Think about your body like a city, right? Your city that you live in runs on electricity, right? There's some kind of power plant over there with transformers and all those parts, right? So that it can send out electricity to homes and hospitals and businesses and everything, right? And as long as your city has plenty of well-functioning power plants, we don't have a problem, right? We don't have brownouts. But if something happens to one of those, what happens? Right, our power goes out. But what if it just turns down, right? Like a volume? What if the volume just turns down? Lights dim, factories slow down, Transportation becomes inefficient. Our stoplights don't work, right? All the things. Things start to kind of slow down and back up, right? So that's essentially what happens when our mitochondria aren't functioning efficiently. And when mitochondrial function declines, we don't have the energy that we need. And guess what? The upside is God has made these mitochondria so that they can be restored, which, I'm all about. Let's restore this whole thing. But we have to start where we need to start, right? So there's 3 ingredients that make ATP. We talked about ATP are the little packets of energy inside our cells. We need 3 things particularly to make ATP, right? We need nutrients. So we need fuel. We need fuel, glucose, fatty acids, amino acids from proteins, fats, all those nutrients. We need those for our mitochondria. We need oxygen. So if you're not breathing properly and you're not doing the deep breathing stuff that we've talked about before, you may not be getting enough oxygen to your cells. And we're going to talk about nutrient deficiencies in a minute that may also hamper oxygen. So just give me a minute. And then micronutrients like our vitamins and our minerals that play a key role in making ATP in our body and allowing our mitochondria to function. So food is like our raw material. Oxygen is what allows the reactions to take place. Like without oxygen, you can't break it down into something that that the mitochondria can use. And so mitochondria are going to take those inputs and create usable cellular energy. And this is called cellular respiration. You're like, what? Right? And so you're not here to get a degree in biology, and I'm not here to give you one, but the cells respirate, right? Like we think about respiration as just us breathing, but inside the mitochondria, cellular respiration is a process. And again, not here to make you biochemists, but there's 3 main parts to this whole multi-step, very complicated thing. Glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain, right? Glycolysis, we're breaking down some glucose. Krebs cycle, complicated. And if you ever took biology, you might have had to memorize it. And then the electron transport chain is a place where the energy is actually created. So just think about, electrons moving from place to place to place. Kind of cool for us geeks. I know. Yep, I'm one of them. So we're not going to go deep here. Just know that it is a multi-step biochemical process that's going to create the energy that you need. And it is complex. So I just want, this is what you need to get out of this, right? The body does not make a fixed number of mitochondria. The body can build mitochondria as they're needed, but they also will break down mitochondria when they're not needed. So it's kind of cool. Right? Your body can build the little energy factors that it knows that it needs. So why do mitochondria slow down? Right? We need to kind of understand this, right? The internal environment of our body creates either more mitochondria or less mitochondria. And mitochondria are super sensitive. All right. They are super sensitive. So chronic inflammation, we've talked a lot about inflammation and what causes it, right? And if you don't have enough antioxidants, then we have oxidative stress. So that kind of makes sense, right? Antioxidants, they take care of oxidative stress. So, but oxidative stress is the thing that's going to damage the little membrane that surrounds the mitochondria. Okay, and that's going to reduce their efficiency. So they can still produce some ATP, but it's going to be less. So that means the body has to work harder to produce the same amount of energy. Poor diet, gut problems, like different bad bacteria, chronic stress. We've talked about all these before. Poor sleep, environmental toxins, hormone disruption, all those things, sedentary lifestyle. Okay. let's talk about sedentary lifestyle for just a second, because you're like, wait a minute, I'm already tired and I don't have enough mitochondria to make energy. But when I'm inactive, my mitochondria decrease. So how do I get back there? We're going to start slow, right? This is the whole point of the Living Fresh Collective, is we are going to build our bodies to create more capacity. We are building our bodies on rock, not on sinking sand. So the body will adapt to the level of energy demand placed on it. Your body will adapt to the energy demand placed on it. So even if you have to start walking to your mailbox and back, and that's where you start, or around your apartment, or wherever it's safe, right? Up and down the hall, whatever, then that's where you need to start. That's fine. Start, right? Nutrient deficiencies. We need a whole bunch of micronutrients, and we're going to talk about just a few of them right here. We need B complex vitamins, all of them together. They all work together. A lot of you that I see in my private practice, you take a B6, you take a B this, you take whatever, you're taking them all separately, but B's all function together, and it's like they need their community, right? They need their friends for these critical metabolic reactions. Magnesium. This allows your ATP, those energy packets, to remain stable. We want that so that they can be there when we need them. So magnesium is super important for that. Iron. Ladies, if you are still menstruating, you need to be taking iron, more than likely. More than likely. Without labs, obviously, I'm not sure, but more than likely, because iron is required for oxygen transport. If you don't have enough iron, you can't get oxygen. We just talked about oxygen is necessary. CoQ10, if you're on a statin, you may not have enough CoQ10. And it is essential for the electron transport chain. And we will talk about cholesterol and CoQ10 and all that on another episode, or in the collective, actually. But if these nutrients are insufficient, the biochemical steps of energy production become way less efficient. That is why in functional medicine, we are so big on doing a full lab panel and looking at it from a functional perspective, not just from a pathology perspective. Because dysfunction, right? Dysfunction comes before pathology or a problem, right? A disease. So dysfunction comes before the disease. And if we can figure out where you're at in that dysfunction, we may be able to pull some of those problems back, and then your body can renew itself, right? Muscle. I have talked to you so many times. I have said, muscle is your metabolism. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? Muscle tissue contains a very high density of mitochondria. Oh, okay. So if there's a ton of mitochondria in my muscle, maybe I'm not moving my muscles very much, then there's going to be less mitochondria, right? So the more muscle tissue we can build and maintain, the better energy production we can have. And so we can increase the body's energy infrastructure by improving our muscle tissue, because muscle tissue also improves your glucose uptake, like we've talked about that. It stabilizes your blood sugar. It increases metabolic flexibility, which is something we're going to talk about in another show. And it increases mitochondrial density, which is what we're here to talk about. So muscle isn't just about strength, right? Muscle is about metabolic stability, right? Muscle is metabolism. Here we go, right? And unfortunately, as we age, we lose our muscle mass, right? And it increases the longer we're on this planet. That's a condition called sarcopenia. And sarcopenia is one of the major reasons energy declines with age. So maintaining that muscle mass is really going to help you maintain your energy level over time. So micronutrients, right? We talked a little bit about this just a couple of minutes ago, But again, B vitamins support energy metabolism. Magnesium stabilizes the energy packets, your ATP. CoQ10, necessary for that electron transport chain to get that energy out of the mitochondria. Iron really supports oxygen delivery from into the via the hemoglobin, which is part of your red blood cells. Again, not trying to get too complicated here. Electrolytes. We hear a lot about electrolytes, but we have to have those electrolytes to support cellular signaling and muscle contraction. So the one reason that nutrient dense diets, like lots of fruits and vegetables, good lean protein, matters so much is because these ultra processed foods that have lots of calories actually require a ton of energy to break down because it's a bunch of chemistry, and they don't really have the micronutrients that you need. I know I get so excited about this. They don't have the micronutrients you need to make efficient ATP. So that they work against you a lot. Your calories might be sufficient with all that ultra processed food, but you are nutrient deficient and becoming more nutrient deficient every day that you eat that. So we've already said that movement builds energy. And I know when you are tired, that is the last thing you want to do. I know that. It is so counterintuitive. But most people assume that energy movement uses energy. But long-term movement builds energy capacity. And that's the rock that we want to build, is that capacity for our body to have the energy, to have clarity, to have good hormone, to have all of those things. Movement is the one thing that is correlated with longevity. Get that? The more we move our bodies, the longer we have the potential to live a healthier life. So movement is super, super important for healthy, long life. Exercise stimulates mitochondrial growth, right? We make new mitochondria. That's called biogenesis, another big word. We don't need to know that one. So endurance training, and that can be walking farther and farther. Resistance training, we've talked about strength training before. All of those things can increase the mitochondrial density inside your cells. And that is going to, over time, allow your body to produce more ATP. So regular movement literally expands the body's energy production system, right? Energy is built through use. Energy is built through use. So I want to just take 2 minutes and return to this Isaiah 40 passage, because we know that this passage acknowledges something deeply human. People grow weary, right? Bodies grow tired. And even strong people eventually reach their limits of their strength. I told you in previous episodes that I definitely crashed not too long ago on my own. I get it. I know all the things, right? Not perfect, just in progress. So, but Isaiah promises our renewal, right? He gives us strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. And our physiology reminds us that renewal often occurs through restoring our capacity. So when we support the body the way it was designed to function through movement, right? Whatever that might be for you, through nourishment, right? Eating good, lean protein over time, maintaining your blood sugar, which we have talked about on so many episodes. And I know that I am going to talk about it again because it's super fascinating, and we are learning so much more about how blood sugar and blood sugar maintenance and all that stuff really dives into inflammation. So that may be the part that's killing your mitochondria off, right? Through restoration, right? We need to restore our bodies. And the Living Fresh Collective is all about slowing down so that we can build the rock, the foundations of our health. And yes, I had to start from the beginning not too long ago. Did it take me very long to get back? About 8 weeks. Not too long because of where I had started and where I didn't fall very far. And maybe you've just been in this dysfunctional place for a long time, and I know that's a really hard place to be. And you're like, where do I start? Well, that's what this whole Living Fresh Collective is going to be about, is really learning how to restore from the foundations of our body, learning how to regulate, learning energy production, right? That's E of fresh, learning how to become stronger, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of those pieces. And then we end up in health, right? And that's the restorative rhythm. That's the last thing we're going to talk about today. We create some rhythm in our days, well, we can even start with minutes, in our hours, and then days, and then weeks, and then months, and then years. And we're going to start at the beginning because it doesn't have to be that difficult. It really doesn't. I know that you may be confused. There's a lot of stuff out there on the internet, but the body can really renew itself. And that is the coolest part about the way that God put us together. We can often begin to rebuild our strength, not instantly, but gradually. So this is something that honestly Scripture talks about all the time. Renewal happens over time. It's like it's sanctification, right? Stewardship of our body is going to be something that we do over time as we align with the design that God placed within creation. And that's our beautiful bodies, right? Made in His image. So I just want to remind you that I love you. Hit subscribe, right? Find me on the socials, find me everywhere, hit subscribe, like an episode, put some comments. I want to know what you're learning. And all the time, I want you to just know that we are renewing your health. It is rooted in truth and restored by grace. I love you guys. Bye. You've been listening to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Chris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, faith-fueled steps to live the vision God placed in your heart. Are you ready to take the next step? Schedule a discovery call or connect with me at drchrissargent.com. That's DRKRIS Sargent.com. While you're there, download my free ebook, Endless Energy, the 6 non-negotiable keys to endless energy, and sign up for an upcoming masterclass. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social media at Dr. Chris Sargent. Let's keep sparking faith and transformation together. Can't wait to see y'all next time.